Hello, my name is Chris de Boer. I'm a teacher in Silpakorn University International College. In last years, I ask my students every time in class how many of them do actively sports in a regular basis. And it surprised me that maximum 2 or 3 students raised their hand. So I was thinking, is this also counting for the whole Thai population, or what's happening? Because I was used to having more active sportive students in class. So, of course, it's obvious why people should do sport. Yeah, it's about health, and it's about mental health, and it's about physical health, but also about leadership styles, leadership skills, and learning something in team sport. So, let's see if I was right, if really Thai people don't sport so much as I estimated in my class. Let's see first what they're doing. And basically about a quarter of Thai people do sport, which is not that much compared to other countries. And if you look at what they're doing, most of them are cycling, badminton, swimming, football. And it surprised me a little bit that the sports where Thai sporters are international on an international level are not that high, not that popular in Thai population. But between different kind of groups, there's a big difference in doing sports. You can look at the slides and you see that there is a big difference in male and females. Men sport more than women. There's a big difference in also age. And you see that over the last years, the elderly people sport less and less and less. Younger people are at the same level. And this should be a kind of that should ring a bell, because also this society, Thai society, is getting an aging society. That means more and more people will get older, and they also live longer. And if they don't sport, that has consequences not only for their own health, but also for healthcare and the cost of healthcare in this society. So I looked at what kind of factors influencing sport participation, and the three groups of factors. The first one is individual and personal factors, the second one external factors, and the third one I called situational factors. Let's look first at the individual and personal factors. One of them is age and gender. I talked about that already. But also the costs of doing sports. Of course, doing sports costs money, not only because you need equipment, shoes or badminton rackets or balls, but also to travel if you want to sport with another team which is not in your village or in your city. Support of family, parents, and motivation. The more your parents and your family are active sporters themselves and promote you to do things, the more you sport yourself. And we see that a lot of people nowadays, if you ask them why they do not sport, they have other priorities. They don't have time. They have to do some extra work after school. They have a job, and sometimes they have even a second job. So there is no time to sport anymore. What about the external factors? Well, some of them, like weather and climate, might be a little bit influencing this kind of participation. Weather and climate, of course, it's hot in Thailand in general, so that means some sports are really not really popular, and the weather, it's raining, but I think it's not the real reason why people do not sport so much. Next to that, there's a perception of gender roles, and that means men are more inclined to sport, they want to look good, they're muscled, while women on the other side do not want that. They want to be beautiful, and beautiful is something different than doing a lot of sports, because maybe that raises your muscles. Like I told in the beginning, the performance of Thai sporters on an international level does not influence sporters so much. They're good for national pride, for national unity maybe, but it doesn't mean so much for people that want to go sport. What more is interesting is schools. Schools that encourage the children to sport, have sport facilities, have sport clubs, then you get used to doing sports. And I'm from the Netherlands, and we say in the Netherlands, jong geleerd is oud gedaan. And that means if you learn to do things on a young age, you probably continue this kind of behavior in a certain kind of way also when you're older. One of the other things is the availability of venues and facilities, because you need some facilities to sport, like sports grounds and basketball fields. And most of them in Thailand are private facilities. That means there is hardly any public facilities. And you see also that in areas where there is a lot of public parks, where people can run around or some jogging, that raises the sport activities in people. The third type of factors was the situational factors, and there are two of them that are important. One of them is people that do not have a partner or a team to sport. A lot of sports, of course, are individual sports, but for a lot of other sports, you need other people. Badminton, volleyball, football, and so on, takraw. And if you don't have these kind of people, or not from your age, or not the people you like, then there is a problem doing this kind of sports. And next to that, there's an advancement of technology and digital life. Esports, is that sports? Well, you could discuss this kind of things. These studies I saw and I read pay attention to these kind of factors on a, let's say, age base. That means there's not so much research that shows how a life cycle of sports participation looks like. And in different phases of your life cycle, there are other factors that influence if you sport or not. As a child, as a teenager, there are already different factors. And if you're adult, probably you have a job, you don't have so much time, you have children, you have other obligations. So that means there's another type, other factors that prohibit you to sport. If you're retired, we see it's more about not able to find people to sport with. In the future, I think future research on sports participation should more pay attention to this life cycle and not to separate age groups or separate gender groups, because that's not the real problem at the moment. Finishing the conclusion. Like I said in the beginning, the Thai people are not very active in sports. There are big differences in age, in gender, in living in rural and urban areas, and some other factors. But these differences in sports participation are mainly a consequence of societal and economical inequality in Thailand, and so on the consequences for less or more health. Because these differences start in childhood and last for a lifetime. A lot of people, there is hardly any social stratification. That means people stay in the same class where there is a lot of money and a lot of possibilities and a lot of facilities in the neighborhood, or there is much less than that. And that, of course, influences your sport participation. Thank you for your attention.